you this.
Okay.
There's two books here. Science of Survival, the new version.
That's the, wait a minute, new version.
Yes.
Why do you say a new version?
I will show you. It says L.Ron Hubbard, but it doesn't say by L.Ron Hubbard.
Okay. So in other words, you're telling me that the book is L.Ron Hubbard, but it doesn't say it's by L.Ron Hubbard.
It does not say that, no.
So that would mean...
His name is part of the title.
But it doesn't mean he wrote the book. I see.
I don't know.
We don't know.
It just says the name, but if you take a look, it says copyright 1989 on this one, which is 3 years after Ron had died. Now let's take a look at this one. This one, it says by L.Ron Hubbard.
Right.
And then if you take a look here, it says by L.Ron Hubbard.
Right.
And then it gives the publication from 1951 up to 1976, which means...
So, there's a gap.
Well, for 25 years, this book was published with Ron's authorization.
Right.
This was published after Ron had died. You see?
I see. And I also see, though, that... why is it that this book, if I'm looking right... It's published by the New Era Publications, right? It says right here, New Eras,
right.
But this is by Dianetics Publication.
Right.
And there's a major gap in the years.
Well, I'll explain things to you as we go along. The one thing I want to tell you is this book, as we can see, and we already clarified, is by L.Ron Hubbard. In this book, there's a chapter on the second dynamic.
Right.
And in this page, on this book, again, we say here we have promiscuity, perversion, sadism, and irregular practice. Here's free love, is in marriage, blah, blah. A society which reaches this level is on its way out of history, as when the Greeks, as when the Romans. Exactly what they say in this policy that was not written by LRH. If you take a look at here, it also says when children become unimportant to a society, that society has forfeited its future. So according to this new version of Ethics, Justice, and the Dynamics, they allege that Ron did not write that. Yet, if you look at book, this book was published for 25 years.
And he did say that.
And he did say that.
But right here, I noticed that there's a header almost justifying the alteration.
Right. What happens when the alteration on the tech is done? People don't achieve the same gains. Let me show you this again. The same book, if you take a look at this book, it was dedicated to very many people who contributed throughout history. Yes.
I see a lot of Thomas Jefferson. Mm-hmm. So we're talking a lot of philosophers and great men in politics. Including,
I believe here, Descartes, even Sigmund Freud.
Yes.
If you take a look at the new version after he died, let's look. That dedication is nowhere to be found. They skipped it. In other words, if a well-educated person like you reads this book, you will say, this guy is a plagiarist. He has taken stories from, or data from Sigmund Freud, from Thomas Jefferson, and from many others.
Well, in fact, he did indeed acknowledge them.
Exactly. He says right here, acknowledgement is made to 50,000 years of thinking men without whose speculation and observations the creation and construction of Dianetics could not have been possible.
So that acknowledgement tells me that he took the greatest of minds and put it together to actually form the full circle.
Exactly.
Okay.
Really, he's not a plagiarist.
No,
he's a person who really studied deeply the subject of the mind and the spirit.
I also noticed that you're saying that these are the same books supposedly.
Right.
But I noticed that the book that you're holding on your right is bigger than the book.
Right.
This is supposed to be the same book.
That's right.
They are dramatically different in size, and the printing seems to be the same size.
Same size, about the same size. You know.
Well, actually, so I'm going to ask what I think everybody else is probably wondering. What's been taken out and what's been added? Because something had to have been added or taken or removed, because you don't get supposedly the same book that dramatic in difference.
Right. I concentrated on what they taken out, because adding they can add whatever they bloody will please.
Absolutely.
What we want to know is what Ron said and what is it that they took out.
Right.
Here's the section goal of the analytics. 1, 2, 3.5 pages.
Okay.
And in this book again, we have the goal of the analytics. Same amount of pages.
Okay.
But yet on the introduction, here, let's take a look how many pages this one has. That's it. So now let's take a look at the original.
Okay.
Here is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23.
I noticed there are a lot of charts.
There are a lot of charts that are very important.
And I noticed there were no charts.
None. Here Ron explains the relationship between the IQ with the personality test. He also talks about different scores, why the tone levels, why the numbers. What does it have to do? Because most people think, 1.1, 1.5, 2.0.
Right.
And they think that he just went up. And he explains why. And he talks about how people go up and down the tone scale as they get auditing. This is very, very valuable information,
Yes,
these charts.
I can see that. But
So without this, you don't understand the data. Yes?
I don't understand how anybody could take such a significant cut out of a book, and yet it's bigger.
Well, Ron says there's an HCOPL called Degraded Beings. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I have.
He talks about how degraded beings tend to alter these things. So